Do you find that when you're looking for a new vehicle for you and your family, that you have a number of conflicting priorities? You have a child or two, but you don't want to surrender to the minivan, and you don't even want an SUV or a crossover. You want a sporty sedan. Also, you've seen the increasing talk about electrified vehicles, but you don't necessarily want a full battery electric vehicle. You've heard about plug-in electric hybrids, or PHEVs, but you're not sure they have the range you need. Well, these and other questions I hope I'll be able to answer today as we test drive the 2021 BMW 330e xDrive, a PHEV, here on Family Wheels. I had a whole bunch of conflicting thoughts in my head when I first encountered the BMW 330e. It's a beautiful car. The front end, look at it, it's just great. It's got those narrow headlights, in this case laser lights. It's got a small grille instead of the giant grille that you're finding on some of the newer BMWs. Fender flares at the rear. However, it's a little small for families. The price is attractive versus the 330i, but on some packages you don't get an EV subsidy. It's got excellent power and handling, but in its most economical mode, it saps the power somewhat. It is electrified, but the EV range is shorter than some. It has a top-notch interior design and finish, but the rear seat is a little bit stingy. Nonetheless, I could sit in the rear seat when the driver's seat was adjusted for me. It has no electrical range anxiety. However, as a result, you pay a penalty. You get a smaller fuel tank and a smaller trunk than the 330i. All right, the Family Wheels stroller is ready to go. I like this stroller. It is not the plainest or the fanciest. The trunk on the 330e opens up in three ways. The little button underneath the BMW symbol, wave your foot around underneath it, or just use the key fob. I was not particularly successful in various foot movements to get the thing open, despite following the directions quite carefully. Waving my legs side to side seemed to get the job done. The 330e's trunk is 22% smaller than that in the 330i from BMW. It's got 13.2 cubic feet versus 16.9 in the 330i, and you really notice it. And that reduced space is due entirely to the battery. Now, at the back of the trunk, that is the rear of the car, there is a little drop-down panel, if you will, a step down, and that's how I got the stroller into this thing. Despite that, and even though you can't roll the stroller in wheels first like you want to, the 330e's trunk did hold our backpack and 3 bags of groceries quite handily. Here we're using a seat and base combination for children up to 30 pounds, rear facing because it's the stiffest test of the car's rear seat room. And here's where we start to run out of space. So, forward goes the front passenger seat, and we are short of room. I'm a perfectly average 5 feet 11 inches tall, 180 centimeters, and it's completely uncomfortable. That said, a forward-facing child seat or booster seat will afford a great deal more room for that front passenger. Under the hood, we have BMW's familiar 2-liter turbocharged gas engine. It's capable of 181 horsepower. Also, there's 107 horsepower from the electric motor for a total of 288. You get the 288 by pushing the accelerator pedal all the way to the floor and kicking in what BMW calls extra boost. That's 40 electric horsepower for up to 10 seconds. Like many EVs, the 330e can warm its interior while you're inside finishing breakfast and telling the children to look for their snow boots in the last place they left them. The function is programmable on the dash or through the BMW app. The all-wheel drive version has a maximum EV range of 32 kilometers, 20 miles, on a 12 kilowatt-hour battery that's 58% larger than in the previous model. In several sessions using our level 2 240-volt charger at home, the 330e achieved that estimate, but only after being plugged in for more than 3 hours. In a couple of sessions, the range topped out at just 25 kilometers, and that charging rate is slow. My wife's full electric car can add more than 100 kilometers of range in the same time. But don't write off this car for its apparently meager EV range. It'll be fine for people with short commutes and a light schedule of parental taxi duties. Regardless, in my experience, the 330e did its best work as a mainly electric hybrid that occasionally uses the engine. There's even a hybrid adaptive mode that analyzes your route and balances the power sources for greatest efficiency. So while the 330e is heavier than its gas-only counterpart, you can rack up some impressive fuel economy numbers. One of my trips in the city showed 1.9 liters per 100 kilometers, about 120 miles per US gallon, and more than 140 miles per imperial gallon, the best kind of gallon. Which is a good thing because, as I mentioned earlier, the 330e's gas tank holds just 40 liters. It's almost one-third smaller than the 330i's. The computer on the instrument panel indicates a total range of about 400 kilometers, but at least your family road trip won't include hunting for chargers and lining up behind Teslas and Konas and Leafs. Just pull into a gas station. Fine little engine, the BMW 4. Because of the turbo, the torque comes on nice and early, stays there up through the mid-range. You're going to have a pretty good time combining the terrific handling of this car with the power of that engine and occasionally a shot of electricity. In the other modes, you do not get a tachometer because it might be a bit embarrassing if you're driving along all electric and the tachometer, the rev counter for you in Britain, keeps reading 0. The creature comforts in so-called entry-level luxury cars today are just astounding. Now this one is highly spec'd, so it's got M, that's very important. It's a beautiful 8.8-inch display with very high resolution. And by the way, it's easy to navigate either through touch controls or with the little knob down here. Harman Kardon audio system with pairing with your devices is dead simple. 2 USB ports in the back and heat controls. Braking is a tiny bit different on this car, and I'll tell you why, because of my long experience with driving a hybrid from a different company, the Toyota Prius. They are similar in that they have a slightly soft brake pedal at the start. Don't be alarmed, it doesn't mean it brakes any less. It still brakes like a BMW with 4 good big disc brakes there. It just feels a tiny bit different, a little bit soft at the front. When you really have to lay on the binders for an emergency stop, this car will be here for you. There isn't any doubt about that. Although this car has a paddle shifter, it also has a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, which, in my opinion and experience, is the greatest automatic transmission ever made. It's used in an amazing number of vehicles because it is just so good. So just let it do its business, because it can do a fair bit of thinking for you. If you were to use sport mode frequently, then you might want to enjoy the paddle shifters, or doing it, say, old school racer style with the shift lever. Another of the invisible party tricks is its all-wheel drive system. The rear-wheel drive is there a majority of the time. When you need the front drive, perhaps a wet road, perhaps a snowy road, then you get more of the drive going to the front of the vehicle, and that's just brilliant. Alrighty, we just drove 9.8 kilometers total, 8.4 of it on electric. Sales of electrified vehicles are often, but not always, influenced by subsidies. The 330e starts at just under the Government of Canada $45,000 limit, but that's for the rear drive version. Ottawa does allow you to add packages up to a $55,000 total and still receive a $2,500 credit, plus $1,500 in BC or $4,000 in Quebec. Our tester is spec'd up to $57,150, but you could get back below $55,000 by going for a less sexy paint color and regular LED headlights instead of the admittedly amazing laser lights. In the U.S., this car qualifies for a hefty $5,836 federal subsidy, and 45 states offer some type of incentive for EVs. Is this the car for you? Well, the BMW 330e xDrive could get by as the only car for a one-child family or two kids if they're a bit older for around town. But if you're going on trips, and why wouldn't you in this luxury sports sedan, it's likely a one-kid proposition as the other back seat will be folded down to hold more of your stuff. If you're a two-car family with a sizable crossover, SUV, or minivan and can afford it, the 330e is a delight to drive and great on gas. This could be your gateway vehicle and give you several years to assess the rapidly growing field of fully electric vehicles. Well, that's our look at the 2021 BMW 330e xDrive. Thanks for watching and subscribing. Be sure to join me for our next ride on Family Wheels.